Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Figments in Time. I'm Lewis at Disney Pickaday on Twitter, and this is my lovely wife.
I'm Val. I'm at Val Palmicki. Hello, friends.
Today we're going to talk about one of the things that got us going to Disney even more when we first got going, and that's Star Wars weekends. It is an event that I stumbled upon back in 2005. I was at a Tech Ed conference, a Microsoft conference in Orlando, and we had gone
without me,
without her, definitely.
Without
and I just walked in. I was like, "What's going on?" I see signs that look a little bit like, "Whoop!" I took away it. That look like this, and posters, and I'm like, "Star Wars weekends? I should check this out," because I was already there. I did no planning at the time, right? I was just at a conference and hanging out for the weekend. Hollywood Studios is an easy park to get in and out of. And, they have a roller coaster that goes upside down. So that's a selling point in all cases. And I'm like calling her and I'm like, "Have you heard of Star Wars weekends?" I don't remember what exactly she said, but it wasn't, "Yes, I meant to be there." I'd done lots of research about it.
No, I don't know how we missed it. We're both huge Star Wars fans, and obviously we're both huge Disney fans. And I think at that point, we were just still so new to the Disney fandom of going to the parks on a regular basis that we just had not done the research, and we had just not done the checking into things. So we didn't know anything about it. And so I was surprised to hear about it. So it was exciting to find out about it because we love Star Wars.
It was possibly the first time I ever did that. I did that another time with a friend. Couple of friends who I went to some conferences, and we went to Disney afterwards. But I really didn't do any prep work back then for anything. You just go. You didn't have all you do. You got fast passes. You just went to the little kiosk and grabbed. There was not a lot of planning ahead. And I have been using the internet since the beginning of the internet, more or less, as a computer programmer. So. Yeah, it was kind of a shockingly weird thing to walk in and see these signs.
We are huge Star Wars fans, and I have been a Star Wars fan for a really long time. I remember going to the movie theaters to see A New Hope, and I very, very vividly remember the movie in the theater. And it was the very first movie I had ever gone to see in the theater. My brother took me. And I just can remember being completely amazed by the visuals and the characters and the story itself. And I was completely mesmerized by Darth Vader. I just could not imagine a character that I thought was as cool as he was in the black suit with the lights on the chest plate, and just the way he walked in that first scene. And I can remember when we were driving home, I was sitting in the back seat of my brother's car, and he asked me if I liked the movie. And I remember so vividly telling him I loved the movie. And he said who was my favorite character. And I think he was expecting me to say Princess Leia or, something like that. And I immediately said, Darth Vader is the coolest person I've ever seen in my life. And I can remember the look on his face was very confused that this little girl, this is her first movie, and I was absolutely obsessed with Darth Vader. But I was for a very long time. For my whole life I have been. And so for us to find out that there was this event at the place that we loved, just about the movie that I loved, it was just incredibly cool to find out about it. And so we were really excited to actually make plans to go the next year.
So do you have any Darth Vader things in your office?
I have a lot of Darth Vader things in my office. Like I said, I'm a huge Darth Vader fan. So I have probably 6 or 7 things that I can just see from where I'm sitting right now in my office, including a Darth Vader that's about this tall that sits in the corner. But I have a lot of things because I do love Darth Vader a lot.
If we're adventurous right now, in the next second, you'll see a little montage of these things. But we'll see. I don't like to do as much editing as some other people like to do.
Well, yeah, I I have one that's right here that I thought you could see in the sight line, but it's not. It's not. But yes, I do love Darth Vader a lot. I will have to say Ahsoka has probably become my new favorite Star Wars character. But like I said, as at a very young age, at 10 years old, Darth Vader was that first character on screen that I saw that I just connected with and just really he was my favorite movie character for many, many years.
Yeah, it was the first movie I saw in the theater with my parents. And I say first, I think it was the only one. And they didn't do very many movies.
Yeah, sad.
I don't know why either, because it's not that I didn't like movies. We watched a lot of movies. I watched the Bond movies with my dad. And he showed me lots of other movies like Bridge over the River Kwai with Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
He showed me lots of movies, but we just didn't go to the theater to see it.
We didn't either. My dad was obsessed with movies, and they were on constantly at our home. And so I was always surprised that I only remember ever going to see 2 movies with him in the movie theater, and that was when I was older. We never went when I was a child. So
I know in my family, it could have been the rough part of right about the time I became a teenager was a bit rough in our family with some job changes and things. But so who knows? I'm not holding a grudge there.
My brother took me to the best possible first movie that he could have taken me to. So to make me a lifelong Star Wars fan, with Star Wars being the very first movie in the movie theater that I ever saw, it's a very special memory for me.
All right. So let's set the stage. The very first thing you would see on a good Star Wars weekend morning was this.
The Stormtroopers. I love the Stormtroopers. They were just a consistent theme throughout the entire Star Wars weekend, and they brought so much humor, and it was always just one of my favorite things to have them talking to us from being up there while we were standing and waiting for rope drop, and just the interaction that they would have with people and the jokes, and it was always fun.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite parts, was just watching them up on the screen, not up on the stand. And it really did just kind of make it a great day.
That's one of my favorite. I had that as my screensaver for a very long time because I love that. I loved the Mickey and the moon and then the Stormtroopers. It was just that's one of my favorite pictures ever.
And what I think that a constant theme throughout the Star Wars weekends discussion is going to be canon. And one of the fun parts about Star Wars weekends is they didn't care as much about canon. No. They made fun of the Stormtroopers. Stormtroopers do some really incredibly fun stuff all day. This is the kind of things you should probably look up on the on YouTube. Yeah. I've occasionally done this and watched those videos. But they'll crack jokes. They'll do dumb stuff. Yeah. And really, the picture I saw the picture frame on the design in PowerPoint when I was putting this together, and it reminded me of the screens they had up that would show pictures of the vacation pictures of some of the Stormtroopers. Yeah. And they were eating ice cream and stuff like that. It was really hilarious.
They would be riding Dumbo with Darth Vader and things like that. So it was always fun.
I don't know why they stopped it. I mean, it was such a good thing. I think they should do it now.
Right? I think that once they acquired Lucasfilm, I think that they just started taking a more serious tone with Star Wars because they knew that the movies were going to be happening and things were going to be changing. And so I understand why they did it, but it was just a lot of fun and nonsense and just silliness, but it was just still amazing to see these characters brought to life in front of you constantly throughout the park. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, the taking it serious part will come up again later in a really sad part of the show. So you got in, you went in the park. The park was pretty much normal, other than the entry, and then there was some stuff. There's going to be parades. There's going to be shows going on.
Well, and one thing too, and something that we never did that always stood out to me more when you first walked into the park were the lines for the autographs and things. Like there were always going to be Star Wars actors from the either original trilogy or from the prequels that were in the park for the day, and they did autograph signings and pictures, but you had to have tickets to be able to guarantee those spots. And so you had to come super early to get in line to be able to get those tickets for autographs. And we just have never been, we just don't typically do a lot of meet and greets. We don't do a lot of those kinds of things. So we never waited in line to do the signatures or autographs, I mean.
Yeah, the last 2 years we actually did the VIP tour they had. Just like they have, I think they still have the ride ones where you get like 8 or 9 rides. And that was one of the regrets was, they said, we're not going to be able to get you autographs, but they gave us these autograph cards, but they were clearly not hand-signed autograph cards.
They were just photocopies of the autographs.
And I don't know which one she wants to be more. I always wanted to meet J. Honor Taylor, because I really like him. I love, he's just fun.
He is fun, and he's amazing. And he's one of my favorites. I'm looking forward to us talking about him here in just a little bit. But Ashley Eckstein is actually my favorite, and she's my favorite not just because she's the voice of Ahsoka, but also because of her universe. And we can talk about that here in a little bit too. But
so you're walking around. They had meet and greets with characters. Mickey's here.
I love Jedi Mickey. Jedi Mickey is my favorite of the Disney Star Wars characters. You can you can know, like I have one that's behind my desk here, and we have them all over our house, the Star Wars Weekends posters, and each year was a different kind of theme for the weekend, and Jedi Mickey's my favorite.
Yeah, I love the poster calendars they put out with the 12 by 18 posters. Other than not being able to find 12 by 18 frames, they're fantastic. We have several sets of those around our house. All right, so you're walking around, you see Jedi Mickey, and then you come to when you were doing the VIP tour, the first part of the day, when you were not doing the VIP tour, this was like the one thing by the end of we started going in 2007 or 2008, almost every year. And the shopping got painful because it's so busy. And we all know about people buying stuff for selling eventually, meaning the next day on eBay. eBay was a thing back in 2010 as well. And we would go shopping. And they had two versions. Darth Maul, which was my favorite name.
Yeah.
And if you guys know this place, this is where Toy Story Mania is at now. The second side. It's a humongous building inside. It's totally weird that this was just it's a ride now. And even the ride doesn't do it justice to how big it was. And then the other years it was called Watto's Grotto.
Right.
I think this is still Darth Maul. Does that say Darth Maul? Yeah, it does. Then they changed it to Watto's Grotto. Both of them particularly perfectly hilarious names.
Yeah.
And you would just go in this big warehouse full of stuff.
Yes.
Which, there's probably a few things in there we regret not purchasing.
Yes.
But there are a few things we kind of regret purchasing.
I have one thing that I still regret not purchasing the most is that they had a jersey, like a football jersey, and not one that was like a typical t-shirt, but there was an actual football jersey with it was black and white, and it had Darth Vader on the back in the Letterman letters. It wasn't just like a silk screen kind of thing. It was like the actual cloth letters and I didn't buy it. And I still to this day regret that I did not buy it. And then I have something that I regret buying sitting right beside me.
To be fair, this was a very expensive jersey. It was one of our first years. We were not so loose with the, and it, when you're buying all these things and you're like, "Are you sure you're going to wear this? It's really heavy." And we'll get it next time.
Never seen it again. Never seen it again.
I don't have a picture of that jersey, but if I find it, I have I'll show you a picture on the screen of another thing. I did the exact same thing to over in the art section for Halloween, there's a couple of pumpkins, ceramic pumpkins that I'm like, I'll get that next year.
Yeah.
Nope. Gone.
No, gone.
So
never,
what are these
never
things?
To be seen again.
So what are these things you might have on your desk there that we regret?
Well, it's
purchasing?
not that there's some that I don't regret buying because they're really cute, but we just, if you've seen our house, we just have no room for little things. We just don't have room for them. But we bought these like little Star Wars sets, like for Star Tours that has like, this one's the Search for the Rebel Spy. And then this one is the Sector 2 security because it has the RX droid and it's got G2, and this one has the signal droid and a seeker droid, and they were just so cool. And so we picked these up, and then, like I said, realizing that we have no space for some of these little things. But I don't exactly remember why we purchased this, but this was the one I said I regretted. And this is a vinylmation of Luke on Dagobah with Yoda. And the reason why I regret us buying them is not because I love vinylmation and I like Luke and I like Yoda, but for some reason I think these are the strangest looking Luke and Yoda that I've ever seen, and I don't think they're cute. I think they're so odd. And so every time I have a bin that I keep in my office of a lot of little things that I don't have room to put up, and I have them in there, and I always look at them and go, they're just not cute, but we have them.
Was it a pass holder exclusive?
It was a limited edition.
Limited edition.
Yeah, and so they only made 2,000 of them.
Those are the ones that you. I do have all the pins. I will put up a picture of the pins.
Yes, we did pick up pins, and we would get. And that was what I was talking about. The very first time I heard of her universe was at one of the Star Wars Weekends events, and I was just amazed to find these unique shirts. Like I'm wearing one of the Her Universe shirts right now. That's the Tano. It's Ahsoka. But the first one I bought was one with Yoda on it, and it was like in an art frame of Yoda. And not only was it just incredibly cool to see a feminine shirt for Star Wars, when, I had usually I would buy guys t-shirts, of Star Wars for the weekends. But also they had my size, which is unique for women's clothes to have my size. And so I was super excited about it. And so I became a huge Her Universe fan. I've got several of the items from her shop now. And she has also Marvel and Doctor Who and all of the pretty much any sci-fi that you might think of, she has products for, and it's just pretty amazing. And so not only is she the voice of Ahsoka Tano, but she also is the creator of this incredible product line at Her Universe. So.
And if they had made more larger shirts, we took a picture out that showed just how large I was at the time. But had they had shirts my size, I would have bought a bunch of those as well. I do like t-shirts and things like that. This is how I dress for work because I work at home, and I pretty much wear t-shirts all the time. I'm a fashionista in that particular way. All right, so back to the picture. So when you go to this big warehouse, they have these posters, and why they don't have these posters in
I know
sizes and qualities for the normal person, I don't know, because I would have bought one immediately. I might have bought them if we could have bought them later, right? You're on a vacation. I don't know how you go on vacation and then spend $300, $400, $500 for a print at a theme park and continue to do all the other things you want to do. Off season, absolutely, I can see doing that occasionally, but
the problem was that they were all pretty much the size you see there. I mean, they were all like incredibly large prints and lithographs, and they were incredibly cool. But for some reason, they didn't make like the smaller like 11 by 14 or 8 by 10 version of them. And so they're not practical for us, but they were incredibly cool. And that's, a regret that we kind of, every time we went, we were hoping that they would have those available in smaller sizes, and they usually did not. So.
They had prints, they had pictures. We do have a Jedi Mickey. I'll put it up in a minute where it seems appropriate.
And normally when
the sketch kind.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you. Now, I was just saying, and normally you waited hours to get in to shop. The lines were just incredibly long because they can only let so many people in at a time. And that was one of the really nice things about the VIP experience at Star Wars Weekends, is that you had time to shop in the morning. You would come in and they had breakfast for us at the Brown Derby. They would have a breakfast, and we would meet there, and then they would immediately take us to Darth Maul or Watto's Grotto at the time and give us an opportunity to shop before they opened the doors. And so you had a few minutes to run around like a crazy person and try to grab, things. And that was another thing. You had to think so quickly. You had to make quick decisions about what you were going to purchase. But it was just nice to have that opportunity to be able to do that, because if not, you're waiting for hours in line to buy the merchandise.
And we might need to clarify, the VIP experience was not the same thing as having a VIP tour guide for your family at the rates that you might know. It was the same kind of rates that the ride thing was.
It was a special event, almost like if you were going to go to a Princess and Pirate party or to the Boo to You, event that we're going to in the fall. It was a special event kind of thing. It wasn't your typical hiring of a VIP tour guide for a day at a park. This was a little bit different.
We got saved seats for certain events, for the shows and things like that. So it was fantastic. But
snacks, they had ice cream they would give us throughout the day, and
they did give ice cream
and bottles of water and things like that. So that was fun. And we did get to do a few of the rides. Like we were able to do the included fast passes for some of the rides, like Rock and Roller Coaster, and I can't remember if Tower of Terror was included. I know Toy Story Mania was.
Yeah.
And Star Tours.
Yeah. They took us through the back way. That was the first time I'd ever tried the back way.
Yeah. So
there were just piles and piles of limited edition stuff. And it was cool. I mean, it was all really great stuff. I wish there was a place you could buy this like all the time, even online, other than eBay. But it is what it is, right? Yeah. Okay. So you finished shopping. We're moving on at quite a clip here. We're at 30 minutes on the first set of slides. Excellent. So now we're going to move on to the parade. And the parades were the anachronism of all anachronisms, because you would have, these kind of troopers. I don't actually know the precise names. The ones that ride the bikes, right?
Yes.
Bike troopers. I may have to edit this out because if I'm completely wrong. But you have these guys, the people from the, what is it, 501st?
501, yeah.
501 Battalion who go and they would march in their own personal uniforms. And it was astoundingly cool to see all these people and see these almost army like platoons marching down the street. And that's one thing. So you'd have the bad guys on one hand. Then you would have the actors in Chevrolets, some sort. That's the Camaro, but like here we have Ray Park, who was there several times. We were there. He was really cool.
It was a lot of fun.
The picture of him with the kids doing a class thing. That was fun. Then you'd have a sand person who's just, walking down the street. Absolutely, positively. And they were cool. Even they would shake their stick at you and make noise. Total fun. Here we have Tom Kane. If you watch the Clone Wars, you know his voice, right? It was really sad when, he's not on the Clone Wars anymore. And he only did the first, not Clone Wars, Bad Batch. And we, he had a stroke and things. It sucks. Moving on. Um, we have Watto, Andy Secombe. He was fun. He all these people will also then be in shows and talk to you, and they'll do some talk shows, which were really, really great fun as well.
Yeah.
Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano.
Yay.
Then you have stormtroopers marching down the street. Silas Carson. He was Nate Gunray was the one, and he's also a Jedi. I don't remember the name exactly. So he's both a good and horrible guy at the same time. So you don't know whether to, throw something to him or at him when he's going down the street.
Well, you don't do either, but that's okay.
You don't?
No, you don't.
That seems wrong. Then you got Donald Duck.
I loved him as a stormtrooper. I think my favorite Donald, though, was when he was, what did they call him? When he was Darth Maul. I can't remember his name.
I would guess Duck Maul.
Maybe, I don't remember. I'd have to look that up too. I don't remember, but that was my favorite year, was when the poster was him as Darth Maul. But he was cute as a stormtrooper as well. And of course Minnie Goofy is Darth Vader.
And Minnie was
Princess Leia. Goofy
with the underwear there was always kind of strange.
Well, again, it was just the more lighthearted look at Star Wars during Star Wars weekends. And so there was Palpatine.
And then the next minute, you have Palpatine and Dooku walking down the street with their guards. And you've got the kids with their lightsabers. And he doesn't wipe them out. And they don't attack him. That was really confusing to me. And then the next second, you've got the original Boba Fett going down the street, waving at you. But it was the parade was always one of my favorite things.
It was neat because they did the parade, and then as they did the parade, the characters, not the 501, but the Disney World characters, the Star Wars characters would come up on the stage, and then the actors would come up on the stage to be introduced. So it was always just a really neat, you had the parade and then you saw them going one at a time up on stage.
Excuse me. And the only real downside of the parade was the excruciating heat that sometimes occurs in Orlando
in May,
in late May and early June. But that was also a problem with the shows, that was when we learned about the queue behind Muppets, because Muppet Vision rarely has a queue that goes all the way around and back, right. But they would use the queue behind there. We would sit there in this unshielded from the sun area for hours, right? Because we would go to 5 shows. We would sit there an hour, go to the show of an hour, next show an hour.
Yeah,
lots of fun.
It was a lot of sitting on concrete and trying to find things to do to pass the time. It was always fun though, because you got to sit and speak with other Star Wars fans, other Disney fans, and you got to meet people and to talk with them. And so even though it was hot and you were waiting for a really long time, it was a lot of fun too.
This, I believe, was the only time that she really felt jealous of me having a scooter.
Yes, it was. He had that, nice cushy chair to sit in while we were waiting, while I was on the concrete leaning up against the chair. It was not quite as comfortable as he was, but that's okay.
Not quite.
It's all right.
Is very true.
Yeah.
Then Tia Sakar, Sabine Wren. She shows up a little bit later. More stormtroopers.
Lots of stormtroopers.
Vanessa Marshall. She's General Hera Syndulla. Hopefully we'll get to see her again.
I hope
Maybe not her, but certainly Hera.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And then one of the better entertainers who would do Star Wars weekends was Warwick Davis. And we'll describe a little bit about his show, but him and another person who I don't think I have a slide of in the parade.
Well, I think usually he was the announcer. Like, I think he was on stage from the beginning and he announced everybody else as they came in, didn't he? I want to think maybe. I don't know. I have a vague memory of that. So he was J. Arnold Taylor was typically the host for the weekend. So
yes,
yeah.
And then Ahsoka's just walking along. Go get Palpatine. And then Darth Vader. I looked for a picture where Darth Vader is as a character walking down the streets looking at me, and I could not. He was always looking away. I don't think he looks at anybody, actually, but
no, he tries to keep it pretty serious.
We also have pictures that we had with him. I had no idea where those are at this point.
Yeah, that's the issue when you go multiple times a year, and when you take thousands of pictures every visit, the pictures become a little overwhelming to go through sometimes, to find things that you remember having, but you have to find them.
One thing I kind of like here is this is like after the parade, everybody got together, they were released, and they had this like introduction to tell you what's going to happen and what's going on. And I liked how Ray Park's just wearing like a Millennium Falcon t-shirt. He's just, and then you've got who else? Ventress. I don't remember the blue person. J.R. Teller's there, C-3PO, Tom Kane. They're all just it's just a fantastic thing. Now the next slide is what typically happens when you're in the in any, and I like this because the person's shirt says you must be this tall to ride this ride. Come on, man.
Yes, dads do tend to put the kids on their shoulders so that they have a better view, but makes it incredibly hard to see when you're standing behind them.
And you'll note most of the pictures I take from this kind of thing, I take at eye level because I'm not blocking anybody any more than if I'm standing here with my, bulbous head in their way. But then later you'll see a bunch of people click, click, click like this, and it's all in good.
Or with an iPad, the iPads have become fun. Them holding iPads over their heads.
Now, if these people would be sharing their pictures, the ones that were up front, would share some of their pictures with me, I'd be all for that. Okay, so then we have a little bit of time and we start going to these different shows. Well, the first part of the show was, in some respects, the most fun part of the show. There'd be stormtroopers just hanging out, telling you jokes, going around the crowd, telling you where to sit. You can see a little bit of the picture in the window of the stormtrooper doing stuff. And it was just a lot of fun. They did this once with Green Army Men also.
That was that was the Pixar. That was the Pixar weekend event that they had. That was really cool. But yes, the stormtroopers were a lot of fun. And like I said, they were just being silly and saying funny things and telling stories. And, it was just, and typically, from show to show, it was pretty much the same pre-show kind of thing, but it was so funny. You wanted to see it over and over again. So it was really good.
Yeah, I was not supposed to be taking his picture. I mean, they're a lot like you can get a Galaxy's Edge today, which is really cool. I mean, I like that,
but not quite as funny.
No, not
like
at
I
all.
said, they're not. I mean, they still interact and they say things, but they don't quite do the jokes the way they used to.
Probably the worst thing about going to an event like Star Wars Weekends as a picture taker or trying to get a video is if you miss it, it's gone. And you get it the next year, you may not. There was only so many days I can go, right? I don't think we ever doubled up a weekend. We may have went Friday and Saturday, but we never went 2 weekends.
Right.
Even if there was somebody we might want to see, like Mark Hamill. Would have liked to have seen Mark Hamill, but missed it. So just a lot of hilarity with that.
Yeah.
So then we'd have shows and they would interview someone, you know, we were all clapping. Well, except for me, I was taking the picture. But.
No, they would, Ashley Eckstein would interview voice actors from Clone Wars, and they would have, special guests on to talk about different things. And it was just always really interesting because it was not only the person that was being interviewed, but they were being interviewed by someone who also had this experience with Star Wars. And so I always thought that Ashley Eckstein and J. Arnold Taylor both made it incredibly interesting and a lot of fun. And so we enjoyed all of the shows that they would have during the weekends. It was worth the wait to see them.
And I'll throw some links in the subtitles, or at least in the notes to the show, so you can go watch a few of these if you want to. And I probably will too, again, after looking through all these pictures. So there were just tons of different shows. Here we have Jeremy Bulloch and Warwick Davis and J. Arnold Taylor looking at pictures of Carrie Fisher and Warwick back in the day, back when they were much younger.
And they would have, like, R2-D2 would come on stage sometimes. BB-8 does now, sort of, like you see, like where they're actual working, like R2-D2s would come out on stage and make noises, and they would interact with them. And so it was fun.
And you always knew it was over, not when Mickey came out.
When Jedi Mickey
came out. That's still Mickey. Same.
Yeah, it's Jedi Mickey.
Same dude, different universe.
Worlds colliding.
And so you might have, Ray Park bringing a bunch of kids on the stage to learn how to fight with a lightsaber, which is honestly something I don't quite understand.
Oh, no, that was really cool.
I'm going to give you a sword, and I'm going to teach you how, if you ever need to, you can slice someone in half.
And I think that they had been the kids that had done maybe the Jedi training earlier in the day. So they had the lightsabers, and he had them on the stage to do. And it was just a lot of fun. Ray Park was just a very personable guy, and he was really fun to listen to, and for him to tell the stories, but also for him to perform a little bit like he did when he performed as Darth Maul. It was really cool. So.
And it was always a time when you could learn a little bit about the shows that were coming up. Mm-hmm. Like Vanessa Marshall here, we're telling us about the next season of Rebels.
Right.
And Rebels was, if you haven't seen Rebels, you need to watch it. Unless you haven't seen Clone Wars, in which you need to see that. In which you haven't seen the movies, well then, why are you still here? I understand if you've left by now going, this is all be all about Star Wars, is it?
Well, and I know a lot of people really do struggle with Clone Wars because the first couple of seasons, it takes a little bit of time to really connect with the characters. I don't know why it did. I don't know exactly why, and at first they're really laying out the characters for you. So they're doing a lot of character development, and the characters are just getting to know each other. But as the show continues, Clone Wars not only gives you some great stories, but they also really tie specific details that we didn't get in the original movies that help us understand why characters did things. And they give us these little backstories of huge events in the Star Wars universe that we are very familiar with. And so it's incredibly cool to have those moments where you go, oh, wait, look, this is that character, or this is what this person is doing, or we know what's going to happen. You see Anakin begin to change. And so you have these elements to Clone Wars that are very unique. And then Rebels brings you all new characters, but they also occasionally would bring in characters that we were familiar with. And it was just the timeline, and it was just incredibly fun to be able to get all of that new information, but also meet all of these new characters that some have been woven into the current movies that we're watching now. So it's just like, for example, we found Ahsoka in The Mandalorian. So the characters are being tied in. And so to be able to see them originally and how they were given to us through Clone Wars and through Rebels is it's incredibly fun, especially if you're a huge Star Wars fan. But you do have to get through those first couple of seasons.
And it's confession time. We were rarely up to date on Clone Wars or Rebels as we were going to these shows. And we were always like, wait, no, don't talk about that. Because, it
was a lot. And, yeah.
So that was always fun. It's kind of interesting in all of the cartoons and even the Mandalorian, how they change things.
Animated series.
Like Anakin in the first 3 movies was what I kind of expected from a Jedi. He's boring. He's kind of sullen. He's very, he makes for a terrible character to watch in some respects. But I don't think we ever really wanted the character who becomes Darth Vader to be everybody's buddy and pal, because we do know he's going to wipe out millions and millions of people someday, right? I mean, that's his thing. But they do make him very personable, very interesting in a way that pretty much seems okay by the time you get to the end. And then we get to the new ones I made just recently, and now Bad Batch, and all those kind of work really well together. I do wish we were, going to see how Bad Batch was going to come out at Star Wars weekends. All right, so there were a couple of shows that J.R. and Taylor did that were great. And one was always called Obi-Wan and Me, in which he would talk about Star Wars things. And he would talk to himself as Obi-Wan. I don't know if he was doing both voices simultaneously, but that was always a great show.
J. Arnold Taylor is very amazing. He's an incredible voice actor. And I think one of the greatest that I've ever heard. The range that he has and the number of characters that he does is just amazing. And his show was always a huge highlight of Star Wars weekends, because he would not only give you the Star Wars details and tell us about how he became Obi-Wan and how he, got that part and specifics on working with it and what he did with it. But he would also just entertain us with this wide variety of voices that he does. And there was a portion in the show where he literally just started with one voice and then worked his way all the way through his vocal range through every single voice that he does. And it was just an amazing thing to behold, him being able to change his voice and sound so much like these characters.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that show in a minute. I'll give you a link to that one, because that one's that I really love that show even today. All right, so we had again more of these shows. Jeremy Bullock was one of the people that did the interviews early on. Now, arguably my favorite show was
Warwick
Davis doing his Ewok's tale. And he came out as Alan Smithy, which is the pseudonym that directors use when they don't want to admit that they were part of this film. And he would pick actors from the audience, and then they would do this show. It was just a lot of fun. It was silly, and he was kind of crazy in the show. And he had an app that he built at the time that was, I'll put that up on the screen too if I can remember what it is. Just a lot of fun.
Well, he would tell the story of how he ended up being in the movie, because he was not originally supposed to be Wicket. That was not the original part that he was supposed to play. And so he tells the story of how his mom helped him to be able to get a part in the movie, and then how he ended up becoming Wicket, and then how he ended up doing all of these other amazing characters throughout his career, because he had that opportunity to be in Star Wars at a very young age. And so it was just a really neat not, and it was a fun way for him to tell the story, because instead of him just standing there and telling the story, he would have these people he chose from the audience to play the characters and to read the parts of the story along with him. And so it was a very creative way to tell a story. And so it was fun.
Yeah, he was. This is, by the way, the reason why I generally wanted Val to do this with me, because she remembers the stories. I remember some of the things going on, but she remembers all the stories much better than I do. We never got picked to be on the show. That made me sad, but.
No, it's really interesting. As many times as we've been at Disney and as many things as we've participated in, we do not typically get chosen to be in any of the shows or to be an active participant in a show, but it's always fun to watch.
And then after Warwick Davis, one of my other favorite events was the time Anthony Daniel, I called him Anthony Davis in my head right there. Anthony Daniel hosted one of the talk shows, and he was a lot of fun. He reminded me a lot of the kind of late night British humor I had grown up on. Little Monty Python, little not quite Benny Hill, but that sort of thing.
He had a lot of fun with it, and a lot of fun with his character, and just a lot of fun with the audience. And so he was just so much fun to see. And
he told stories about him being in this suit just amazed me. Not the first time. Okay. You know, when you're however old he was back when Star Wars 4 was shot, right? But he did that through all 9 movies. I mean, come on. That was incredible. First off, how do you stay in that kind of shape for that many years to fit in that suit? Because that's not a very forgiving suit, right? That suit's made of metal. But it was a silly show. A silly show. Okay. I'll see if I can edit that out. But if I can't, you'll see me counting down. It was a very silly show. And, you know, I didn't remember too much about it being silly. And then I found this picture and I was like, what is going on here? I love C-3PO shirt. I don't know. That was hilarious.
Like I said, he just had a lot of fun. He was just a lot of silly, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so the next thing, usually the last show of the day, was one of my favorite shows that was not Star Wars related whatsoever, but it was J. Arnold Teller doing his Talking with Myself show. And in this, he would tell people about being a voice actor, how he became a voice actor, and some other personal stories.
J. Arnold Taylor is just really an incredible performer. And to be able to not only hear his vocal range and hear the characters that he can spot on mimic is just absolutely amazing. But I think the reason why I started really enjoying his shows so much and really liking him as a person so much is because he would tell these stories, and he talked about how, like, for example, one time he lost his voice, and just he shared with the audience just the vulnerability of being afraid that you're no longer going to be able to do not only what you love to do, but also what you do to provide for your family, and just the fear that they had during that time when he couldn't speak. And so he just always shared these personal struggles and how he overcame them and how he walked through them, and just the support of his family. And he would tell these just very endearing stories about his life. And so not only was he incredibly entertaining, but he's also incredibly inspiring. And so his show was just my absolute favorite for the weekend. I enjoyed listening to him so much, and him being the host for the weekend, I think that that's what I miss the most about Star Wars weekends, because I know we get to see the characters and we get to do fun things still with Star Wars. I mean, obviously Galaxy's Edge and everything that has come through that has been amazing. But I really do miss seeing him in the parks and seeing his show and hearing him host and us getting the behind the scenes with the actors. That was just, I think, a very special and very unique thing.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I say you should find this on YouTube and watch it is one of the sections is of him doing the voices. And he goes, you start with this voice and you add a little something to this voice, you add a little something to this voice, you add a little something, take something away. And that whole scene is just like tremendous. Mm-hmm. And again, if you look it up on YouTube, it's Talking with Myself. He has a YouTube channel. He has a vlog and all sorts of stuff. Podcast, I think. All right. So the shows were over. Then the biggest thrill of them all. Up until I think they cut it out the last year.
Right.
Or last 2 years.
Oh gosh, now that you say it, I know for sure the last year.
It was Hyperspace Hoopla. And we would sit down in a place and we would, just like you do now for the fireworks, but for much longer, because you really want a good seat for this show. And you can see I didn't get the best seat ever from my pictures, but
I will never forget the very first year that we went together. We were walking through for example, going from where the Raiders of the Lost Ark show is,
right,
over to where the opening of Galaxy's Edge is now. We were walking that direction, and we just stumbled upon this crowd in front of the stage that is there beside Star Tours. And it's typically for now what is where you would see the kids doing the Jedi training. And I mean, it was just a packed out space. And we were like, what is going on? And that was the first time we saw Hyperspace Hoopla with Stig and Oompla. And they came out and they did this show. And it was just, again, in this very small space. So here we are standing, shoulder to shoulder with people, but it was just on this very tiny stage. And I think it was the next year that they moved it in front of the Sorcerer's Hat.
It wasn't long, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously, just the crowds were ridiculous. And so I can remember, though, that first year standing there watching this going, what am I watching right now? Like, what am I seeing? What my brain is trying to process. The beauty that was Hyperspace Hoopla.
And just in case you were listening, don't listen to the planning that the Aughts Davidsons did. The planning is much better these days. We know what's happening as well as anybody else. We know where to be. Yes. We know how to change things. Those
were the early days when we were so totally lost.
I'm just like, wait, there's Star Wars here. What's going on? Can somebody tell me what's going on? And even the first time we didn't have entertainers. It was inside the place where the Frozen pre-show is now. That used to be kind of open, and there were TV screens. Right. I just went in, you watched shows about Star Wars, but yeah, we plan better now. We plan good. It's a lot of work to get it right. All right, so you get your seat, and then out comes Stig and Oompla.
Who are just my favorites. I love them so much. The performers at Hollywood Studios, they're always amazing. And I know that you are probably familiar with them from other shows, but at the time we did not know them because we just missed the Adventurers Club. So I believe that these actors were very well known in the Adventurers Club, and we had never been to that experience at the time. And so we did not recognize them, but Stig and Oompla they just made us laugh, and they were so funny and just so great together. And they just riffed off each other in such a funny way. And we loved those two characters so very much, and have been very excited. I see the actress that plays Hoopla. I see her sometimes in the Frozen live show as one of the Arendelle historians. And so I have seen her occasionally. She has a very unique voice. And so when I see her, I recognize her very quickly. But I haven't seen her in a very long time. So I hope that she is still there. But Stig and Hoopla were just two of my favorite characters ever from any show we saw.
So then there was the running gag. There was lots of running gags that were always the same, and I kind of comforting in some respects. I actually watch the same TV shows every holiday season, every year, just for the same kind of feeling. And Star Wars weekend and Hyperspace Hoopla kind of filled that void in the Star Wars realm. In that every year the same thing was going to happen, same ending was going to occur, the same characters plus or minus one or two, totally the same thing. The modal nodes here were always going to play the same Cantina song, no matter what was requested, and it was just nuts. They would dance around. It was kind of crazy. Then there would be the dance off with the Star Wars stars.
Right.
Which was the weirdest menagerie of things you'll ever come across in your life.
Which I want to think, and I may have it all mixed up in my mind because, like I said, we went to Star Wars weekends every year, and it was a big deal for us. And so I may have it mixed up, but I want to think that very first show that we saw beside Star Tours on that little stage was Darth Vader dancing to Michael Jackson.
Yes.
And I think that was, like I said, my eyes were huge, and I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm seeing right now, but this is just the most amazing thing ever.
I will most likely throw that in here if I have that picture, because I do have some picture of that. I think. So you had the bad guys. You had Vader and the stormtroopers, and then you had the other guys over there. They were being mean to the good guys. And there was dancing of some unknown. Chewie's dancing with Jawa for some reason. Stormtroopers are getting it down. If you really want to get sacrilegious, Darth Vader here's getting funky on the stage.
It was, again, it was the ridiculousness of it that I think was so endearing to us. Not that we were making fun of the characters, because obviously we love the characters very much, and Star Wars is really important to us. It was just the absurdity of it. It just, at the time, would just make you, I just would laugh. I would laugh through the whole entire show, and it was just so funny. And it was just so, and Lewis talks a lot about the anachronisms and the fact that you would have characters from the prequels along with the original trilogy, and that it would be confusing. And I told him earlier, I said, I think the only one that ever bothered me greatly was they did have this one dance number with Darth Vader and Amidala. With Amidala. And it was just, to me, that was the only time that I went, oh no, this has gone too far.
I honestly thought I remembered it with Leia.
Well, I think that it was all the women. Like, I think it was Amidala, and I think it was Leia, and I can't remember who the other one was off the top of my head, because I know I should remember and I don't. But it was just this very strange dance with the women and with Darth Vader. But again, that was the only time when I kind of felt like, okay, too soon. I couldn't do it. That was the only time I ever kind of went, no, please don't do this. But all the other times, all the other dances and the things that they did, it was just silliness, and it was just fun, and you just laughed, and it was just ridiculousness. And it was Hyperspace Hoopla. And I can totally understand why they don't do it now. And I don't know that I would find it as funny now as we did back then, but it was just a lot of silly fun.
I'm not bothered by the anachronisms. That was hilarious. I loved it. I loved everything about Star Wars weekends. I do not want to see this go into Galaxy's Edge. Like if they started
No.
it back up, I would love them to have Galaxy's Edge and special stuff there. But I like that time period thing they have going on there. Even if that time period doesn't allow for other things to occur. I don't know why they don't have it maybe different weeks or different months. This month it's going to be old school. Darth Vader's going to be there. It's going to be, back in the, I don't know the time periods very well, but I'm not that nerdy. Okay.
I don't know. At some
not
point,
that there's anything wrong with being that nerdy. Okay.
At some point they'll do something with it. They're going to have to, but for right now, it's still new and it's still incredible. And there's no reason to make any changes.
And I will admit, I was a little miffed by the fact that they're being so anachronistic in Avengers Campus. Like you got Black Widow walking around with new cap. That doesn't work. One of them is dead or one of them hasn't existed yet.
I can suspend my disbelief. So I'm good, but I understand why you're frustrated with it. But
this, when you just go, this is comedy, then who cares? This was fun.
This is just silliness.
So here's Amidala coming out, and there's in the big headdress.
I think maybe it was Ventress that was dancing with them that time. I don't remember now. I shouldn't guess.
So the Hyperspace Hoopla always ended with, Darth Vader throwing Palpatine.
The good guys would always win, and Palpatine would fall down the elevator chute.
And he would make a joke every year about this is going to be the year I don't go down that elevator chute. Yeah, so that was fun. So Hyperspace Hoopla, that was honestly one of my most favorite parts of Star Wars weekends, other than the fact that it was generally ending for us at that time. So when the Hyperspace Hoopla ended, they replaced it with fireworks. Mm-hmm. And they were better than the fireworks you have now, but still, they were just fireworks. I don't think they didn't have projections back then either. It was just fireworks and music, as I recall. Maybe some lasers. I don't have any pictures of lasers, and I generally would. But they were very pretty fireworks, and it was always nice having fireworks over Hollywood studios.
Well, and it was just amazing too to have the fireworks with the Star Wars music. The Star Wars music is so spectacular anyway. And I think it lends itself to a fireworks show specifically just incredibly well. And so it was just a neat thing to see. You love fireworks, and I love the score. And so I thought it was just a really fun way to end the night.
Okay, to be fair, I also love the score. And I did like the fact that the fireworks show was just fireworks, more or less, because then you can focus on the sky and watch the sky and not have to watch a building. I like the projection show they have now because it's not mostly fireworks or not even largely fireworks. It's accented with fireworks. Mm-hmm. We'll be interested to find out what happens with the 2 new fireworks shows coming up and the projections going down Main Street that are coming in. We did experience that a little bit at Disneyland where they have the projections down the street. So
yeah, it's pretty incredible.
I didn't get to experience it with fireworks, and neither one of us saw the castle last time. And then somebody started this COVID thing last year, and we didn't get to go. So maybe next year we finally get to go to Disneyland again.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, so then that would end the night. The other day we would go, there were some other activities that went along with Star Wars weekends.
Oh gosh, I almost forgot. Yes. My favorite thing. I love this so much. And
they would transform the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater into Star Wars Dine-In Theater.
Oh gosh.
And they would show Star Wars clips on the screens, which was really fantastic. And then they would serve, Star Wars food.
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah.
Who doesn't need a little crunchy biscuit with Darth Vader's head toasted right in there, and C-3PO on top of your muffin?
It was incredibly great because this was breakfast, obviously.
Yes.
And it was one of those events that I had so much fun. It was my first meet and greet with Darth Vader. So when you would come into the sci-fi, you would get to meet, and I have to say, we struggle with meet and greets because I love the concept and I love the pictures. But the reason why I tend to shy away from the meet and greets is because I don't know what to say. Like I have this awkward, feeling of a cast member that's standing there watching me talk to Darth Vader and thinking, why in the world is she like having a conversation? And so it's this struggle to come up with things to say. And so, but I just remember us walking in that day and just being able to meet Darth Vader for the first time, considering that 10-year-old little girl who thought that he was just amazing. Actually, I guess I was 9 when I saw it the first time. And he thought that he was just amazing. And then to actually be standing there beside him for the first time was pretty incredible. And so you had that opportunity where you had the little meet and greet. So you had the photo, and then you were taken to the table, and there were characters that were wandering around the restaurant, and they would stop at your table and talk with you. And we had really not done, I would think that probably back then we had done very few character dining experiences, if we had done any, because again, we just didn't typically do a lot of the character meet and greet kind of events because our daughter was older, and she is not a huge fan of the characters that are in full costume. They make her very uncomfortable. And so we didn't do a whole lot of those. And so for this one to be a Star Wars one where the characters came up to our table and interacted with us, and it was so much fun. So they were just again, just like a typical meet and greet. They were kind of randomly walking around and just talking with you and saying funny things and having these little interactive moments.
I still got to say, meet and greets with Darth Vader are kind of weird because he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
And, you're meeting with Darth Vader. This guy should be choking you right there, force choking you. Get out of my way. Next, right? But he's not. He's like, come on, take a picture.
Well, but it's very interesting just in body language what they can do, because he would point. Like when you would say something, he would point, and then he would sort of just tower over you, and the way he would move his arms, it was all very intimidating. And so you felt intimidated. Like he would say, I just remember going, I'm not sure where to stand. And he would point, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'd, hurry to stand where he told me to go, because it was just this very kind of intimidating for him and Kylo Ren as well. We did the meet and greet with Kylo Ren. And again, it's just a very awkward, I think, because they don't really talk. And if they do, it's not, along with what you say. And
I don't quite understand why they don't sell it a little more. They go, okay, you have to tell him that you are a big donor to the Empire, and he's going to take his picture with you. You have given them, because I'm going to talk to a villain. I'm hoping, that children aren't going, I want to be like Darth Vader someday. I know maybe you sensed he was something special. He was going to be the savior after all, but I just, I want to be like Kylo Ren when I'm older. You know what he did, right? Star Killer Base? He blew up your planet. Still want to be him? No.
I love them. They actually stole my silverware, so I couldn't eat. We had to find a waitress to get more silverware. But basically, yeah, because they would come up and they would come often. Like they came to our table more than once. And every time they would take something like the salt and pepper shakers, or they would leave something like a sticker or something, like the trades were never very equal to what they were taking, obviously, and they didn't take anything personal, but they would take, like I said, they took my silverware. And so we had to find the waitress to get more silverware, but it was just really fun. It was just a funny kind of thing that was happening.
Are you saying a sticker that you can't get from anywhere else is less valuable than silverware that they brought you?
It wasn't a cool Star Wars kind of sticker. It was something.
I think it was one of the Mickey ones, right?
Kind of odd or random. It was something that was not, yeah. And I think it was something that they had probably picked up from somebody else or something. It wasn't like it was a really cool situation. It was you definitely didn't get the better end of the trade with the Jawas.
You only have so many times to take these pictures, so they're a little blurry. Could you come back, please, and steal my silverware again?
Well, I need to realize this is really early in your photographing years. This was really early.
Because originally I was just trying to take a few backgrounds for a computer screen.
Yeah.
Now I want to document Disney World. Okay, so the last thing we're going to put up is a nice, sweet little memory of a big old cupcake.
That would have been, I'm guessing, at the back lot. I'm sorry, my brain is blanking. The restaurant that's beside Star Tours.
Isn't that the Backlot Express?
Backlot Express, is that right? They only changed 2 restaurants during Star Wars weekends, and originally it was just the sci-fi, the special meal that they did at the sci-fi, but then they started doing some special things there with like the cupcake that you see in like the burger with Darth Vader, burned into the top of the burger bun and those kinds of things. And you didn't normally, now, you see those on a regular basis. Back then it was very unique and very new. And that was an incredibly good cupcake.
I lied. I have one more picture that I have to show because you said special food they put up. And this special food was disturbing. It was tasty, but it was disturbing.
What was
and
it?
This special food is Darth Maul hummus.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Such a creepy freaking dessert right there. Just
that
all
wasn't
the
a
way.
dessert. It was like you had
I'm sorry,
like
yes.
chips and hummus. And
yes.
yeah. And
that
yeah.
was just
gosh,
wrong.
I forgot about that.
It looks disgusting, but it tasted really, really good. I mean, I think it was like a red pepper hummus. I don't remember what the black stuff was. And I mean, anything that comes with bugles. What I mean, come on. So yeah, one freaky, creepy dessert. I said dessert again.
Yeah.
Entree.
It was. I totally forgot about that. That's hilarious.
All right. So do we have anything else you want to say, remember, mention?
I just miss Star Wars weekends in a way. Again, like you said, this is not something that I would want to see in Galaxy's Edge, obviously. But to have the special events where you have the speakers come and the actors come and you have the special event merchandise and some of the things around the other areas in the park. I miss that. That was a lot of fun. And so I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Like I said, it was the thing that got us going to Disney repeatedly.
Right.
Probably was the thing that sold us on DVC. I'm just saying. Trying to bribe Disney here with my paltry few hundred points. But yeah, it was fantastic. And it was, to me, always astounded me. I stumbled upon it like just one day. What is this?
Yeah, it makes me sad we weren't better planners back then.
Is it better to plan or not plan? Was it not just fun stumbling on things?
It was fun, but it would have been, we probably missed a lot of things by not being more prepared. But yeah.
I've stumbled upon some great things. I found a beach when I moved. We moved to Virginia Beach. I knew about one beach. I found a beach accidentally. It was such a great find. I'll always remember that as a special beach because I found it.
This is true.
Okay, this is dumb.
Yeah.
I think this is it. We'll be back again, hopefully next week with another set of memories from another set of things we may or may not have actually done in the way we remember it. So I'm Lewis and
I'm Val.
And we'll see you later.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.